Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I am your host and beat reporter, and I have been your beat reporter covering the Jacksonville Jaguars for On SI every single day since August 2019, and we are continuing to march forward through another offseason together. As always, you can find our 100% free, 24/7 boots on the ground daily coverage of the Jacksonville Jaguars on social media such as Facebook and Twitter, at Jaguars on SI. You can also find us at www.si.com/NFL/Jaguars. Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about, you guys know how I feel about listicles. Yeah, I'll share them. I'll do the song and dance, where we're all just trying to find our way in the galaxy or whatever the quote is, But you guys know how much I put into, I guess you can say, outside judgment. Like, to me, I don't think it matters that much what national pundits, etc., people on the outside say about the Jacksonville Jaguars. In a large part because, the Jaguars simply, there's a devoted group of people who watches every one of their snaps, and there are some analysts who do a great job and do the same. But otherwise, I feel like you don't properly get the context surrounding the Jaguars, unless, local coverage or some of those top analysts, like I said. That said, there was a Fox Sports, list, pull it up on the 10 quarterbacks with really the most pressure on them this year to perform. And it isn't surprising at all to see Trevor Lawrence, on the list, etc. That isn't, a part of it at all. But where he lands, and, just to give you the skinny, you can go find it on Fox Sports, but they had Houston Texans quarterback C.J. Stroud, number 10. Miami Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, number 9. Los Angeles Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert, number 8. Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott, number 7. Seattle Seahawks quarterback Sam Darnold, number 6. New York Jets quarterback Justin Fields, number 5. Carolina Panthers quarterback Bryce Young at number 4. Caleb Williams of the Chicago Bears at number 3. Anthony Richardson of the Colts at number 2. And Trevor Lawrence at number 1. And the exact title on it is which 10 quarterbacks have the most to prove heading into 2025 NFL season. And it's Trevor Lawrence at number 1. I think, you can put as much stock into the national narrative and perspective as you want. I personally think it means little to nothing for how actually successful the football team can be. Or I don't think there's any sort of real connection between that and, the desired results of most teams. I think it's just, that's what it is. It's something to talk about. That's what sports is. That's what fandom is, etc. With that said, I do think you can probably make a fair case that this is obviously not, the straw that broke the camel's back, but this is just another example of how nationally, I think the view on the Jaguars and franchise quarterback Trevor Lawrence is that he has a lot to gain this year, that he has a lot on the line this year. And as you guys know from listening to me, my evaluation of Trevor. I think he's a really good quarterback who, has struggled at times with the inconsistency to become great. And while he's battled those inconsistencies, he's also battled some things outside of his control. Put those together and you get his last, 2 seasons, but really seasons and a half, because he wasn't playing bad football in 2023 before the injuries. He had just started the round in the form, really around the time that he got hurt in the 2024 after. It was a very rough start. That first month of the season, I'd say was, or first 5 weeks of the season, whatever, it was. I think it was the first 4 weeks, was the worst stretch Trevor Lawrence has had as a player since his rookie year. Because, yeah, everybody's banged up, obviously, but he wasn't, clearly hurt. And he just had some stinkers against the Browns, against the Bills, and against the Texans after playing relatively pretty solid against the Dolphins in week 1. But after that, he started putting together good games. The Colts game, the Packers game, the Patriots game. He started stacking together some good performances. And then injuries just completely derailed not just his momentum, but his season. He only started 10 games last year. Didn't even attempt 300 passes last year. It was really, if, we boil it down, fast forward 5 years, 2024 will probably be the season to forget for Trevor Lawrence, the most forgettable season he's going to play as a Jaguar. Injuries just derailed that season so much, very similar to how they did the earlier season when his play took a nosedive at the end of the year in correlation with him not being 100%, him not being able to practice 100%. So I think the recency bias definitely is at play with Lawrence and his national perspective. It doesn't matter that he was playing pretty well before he got banged up last year because the Jaguars are still losing. And, a lot of times this perception has to do with team success. Perceptions that Brock Purdy's been a very successful quarterback with the 49ers, had a little bit of a down year last year. That's thought of because the 49ers did worse last year. They went to the Super Bowl the year before. He was great that year. When in reality, he was the same quarterback. You're just judging him for the team results. And that is the big thing, in my opinion, with the national perspective on Lawrence is he has been, by and large, a product of really how people view quarterbacks, which is, team results. I mean, you see Justin Herbert on there. I don't think Justin Herbert has to prove anything. Justin Herbert's already one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So I do agree that Lawrence has to put together a strong season in regards to, they went out, paid him early. You'd like to see at least, something in those first 2 years, return on investment, especially considering the year he had in 2023. If he, struggles this year, that's 3 years in a row. And that's, I'm as big of a Trevor Lawrence advocate of the player, as there is. Big fan of the guy off the field, how he carries himself, how he's always dealt, with the media, with the team, etc. But I do think there was a sense of, as narrative driven as it is, has to have a strong year this year. And I think he's, positioned to do so. Just looking at his receivers 1 through 3 this year, it's Brian Thomas, Travis Hunter, and De'Ami Brown. You can even do it, Brian Thomas, De'Ami Brown, Travis Hunter, if you want right now. And, Travis Hunter's your third best wide receiver if you had to play a game today, which might be, the case just because he's still developing, etc. Compared to a year ago when it was, rookie Brian Thomas, Christian Kirk, and then Gabe Davis, who, Gabe obviously gets dinged a lot for his time in Jacksonville, and it probably was, in terms of what they got return on investment, one of the worst signings the franchise has had in free agency. But he was also really hurt, pretty much all season. He got hurt in Buffalo the year before, and you never really saw a 100%, in my opinion, healthy Gabe Davis. So this year's 3 versus that year's 3 with that context of Gabe Davis, I think it's pretty clear, where the advantage is at. I think in terms of play calling, scheme, coaching, yeah, there's not like a super, super large sample size for Liam Cohen, but I think there's definitely enough to say he's, one of the top play callers in the NFL, in my opinion. And I'm willing to call, my shot on that one. Just what he did in Tampa Bay last year, how much better they were than the year before under a guy who had gotten a head coach job in Dave Canales. The way Will Levis looked with him at Kentucky. I think Liam Cohen is going to be very good for Trevor Lawrence. I think that's a big reason why Liam Cohen was so attractive to Shad Khan and to the Jaguars, was because of Trevor Lawrence. So definitely you can say I think there's, pressure on him to perform, but I think he has better, receivers around him. I think he has a better scheme around him. To me, it's always been about, can he stay healthy? And if he can stay healthy, I think it's at least, a safe bet that Trevor Lawrence, at least numbers wise, should look better this year. But we're going to have to wait till the end of the year, obviously, to make a judgment. Thank you guys for listening. As always, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, all the other podcast platforms. Please make sure to follow, review, subscribe. You can find us at the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. You can also find us, all of our podcasts, interviews, videos, and such on our YouTube channel at Sports Videos on SI.